How's everybody doing? Yeah? It's funny because normally first service is like more full. You guys beat them today. You totally did, which is awesome. So good job, everybody. If you have a Bible, we're going to jump right in here in a moment. Turn on over to the book of Ruth. It's in the Old Testament of the Bible, the book of Ruth, Old Testament. If you're not familiar with your Bible, the Bible's broken up into Old and New Testament. We'll help you out a little bit. Turn over your table of contents, find Old Testament, find Ruth. We're going to be in Ruth chapter 3, we're going to be starting in verse 7 in a little bit. So Ruth chapter 3, verse 7. You can also download a digital Bible and go to your app store and look it up there. And then you can download that and just type it in, and that's what it should sound like on your keyboard. And you type that in, and then you'll be good to go. And then you can look up Ruth chapter 3, verse 7, and following. Will be there in a minute. While you're turning over there, a couple things. If you came in late, we definitely want everybody to fill out forefront.org/growing, because as you can see, because you guys are great at inviting friends, and you keep coming back, and it's like we fed you overnight and got you wet like gremlins, and then people just keep coming, and it's going more and more. And so it's the same things happening in our children's ministry and with our student ministry. And so go there, fill that out. Everybody in your house, we want to know service times and things like that as we add a third service come January, which is awesome. So make sure you fill that out. Also, in the video, he talked about Collide. And so last week in the video, Brady was like, hey, it's going to be every other week. And he does this little thing, which, by the way, I'm not sure who does jumping jacks like this when he was doing that in the opening of the video. And he says, hey, this week is Collide. I wasn't sure what exactly was happening there. And he said, hey, Collide's going to be every other week. Well, people asked us, they're like, hey, like, why is it every other week? And we said, well, it keeps growing, and we don't have enough volunteers to handle all the growth. And they're like, I'll volunteer. And so we got enough volunteers so that it's going back starting tonight every week. So thank you guys for stepping up for that, which is awesome. And then the last thing is you've been turning over there. We kind of wrapped up. We did our big kind of commitment Sunday last week for our all-in campaign, because we're going to watch as God kind of takes this whole building and like makes more. And we look in and saying, how can we move and grow and as a church be all in as God continues to grow this place? And so we're going to tell you the total next week. I really want to tell you now, but I can't. I'm not allowed until next week. And so I got to hold it in. But we're not saying until next week because there's people who are like out of town, we're traveling, doing their thing, and we want to make sure everybody has a chance to be involved with that. And so if you have questions about that or whatever, like, hey, what's going on, you can stop by the Get Connected table and they'll hook you up and let you know all the juicy details. And so before we get rolling, I want to pray for you and for me as we just jump in and look at this series, Family Matters. Let's pray. God, I thank you that we get the opportunity to follow you, to honor you. And man, when it comes to the family, it's so important that we figure out how to do this well. How we work in our marriages, what does it look like to raise up kids, to know you and to be an influence for you in this world. And how do we interact with our extended family and those that are close to us? Because navigating that can be very difficult at times. And so we just want to bring all this before you as we jump in today. And it's through your Son we pray. Amen. I remember my first time to Vietnam. As you guys walk in through the main entrance, you'll actually see a wall there, and it has pictures of Vietnam and some of our experiences that we've had there. We've been going there for about 7-8 years, and it's been fascinating to watch our relationships grow. But I remember my anxiety level when we first decided to go to Vietnam, and it was my opportunity to go for the first time. I wanted to make sure that I got it right. So I started looking online, trying to learn words in Vietnamese, and that didn't go so well, because it's a tonal language, and you can be like, da, 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 and it means completely different things. It's like tree or I want to beat up your mom. And it's like this weird language, so I'm like, this is not going to work for me. I'm trying to work this out. But the one thing I can try to figure out is at least how to love them well, how to serve them well, and I tried to pick up how to eat with chopsticks. Because I'm like, surely as we're going around, and one of the things that as you go to different places, you're said, everything that they give you, you have to eat. Have to eat, have to eat, no matter what. It's just it's a respect thing. And everywhere that we went, the lack of forks was astounding. And so I had heard this from a couple other people who went, and so I'm like, all right, I'm going to take this up, I'm going to learn. And I got like the kid, like play school's my first chopsticks, and it's got like the special thing so they don't fall apart. And I'm trying to learn how to do this, and like my hand is cramping up, and it was just awful. Like, I'm like, how do people do this every day just by fork? And so we're trying to do this, and we get on the ground there in Vietnam, and our first thing we do, we get our bags into the main place and we go out to eat. And I'm like, here we go. It's time. And we go up to this place, City View Cafe, and we're just eating, having a good time. And I'm picking up rice, and it's dropping. And like, if you've ever tried to do this, like next time you order takeout, get chopsticks and just watch each other. It's fascinating. And so I'm trying, and I'm doing it, and I'm just like, all my food's falling, and our translators are laughing at me, the dumb American. And so I'm trying to do this, and finally I start getting the hang of it. And when you get, like, if you're a novice, it's something, and then you start getting the hang of it, you try to show off a little. And so I'm like grabbing food and talking, like waving my chopsticks around and everything. And so we get to this, and it's family style where they bring out different dishes, and they'll kind of like, this is the dish we're eating right now. And it's like evident whether or not you're eating it because everyone's digging in. And so we get to this really slippery chicken that happens, and I pick it up, and I'm squeezing it with like a kung fu grip. I'm like, and all of a sudden, boom, like it shoots out of my chopsticks and hits our translator in the face. And so I'm like, that's it. We've ruined our relationship with these people. They're going to kick us out of the country. We're doomed. And so they start laughing, and our one guy who kind of runs the ministry there, his name's Dunn. He said, oh, Jason, you know go with chopsticks. And I'm like, real cool. And he's like, and then the whole rest of the week, the ministry that we go to is actually based in Texas, is where they're based out of here in the States. And so he's visited before, and so he's gotten this country southern drawl. And he's like, and his favorite word is y'all. Y'all, like he says this, so y'all not good with chopsticks. And so he kept that all week long. That was kind of the thing. I was like, man, all I wanted to do is show up with this one thing. Like, I know, like, we can sit and paint things and build things, but like, I wanted to honor them and like show that I'm not just some silly American here. And I totally blew it. Like, I was like, man, I want to honor you in this way, and I have failed epically. And I think we do that too. I think in our lives we do that in how we show honor to other people, how we move and breathe in our relationships, in the way that we parent, in the way that we move through the journey of marriage, is that we try and really want to, and we have this desire. I haven't met anybody who's like, I really don't, like, I hate my marriage, I hate my kids, I hate it, like, that just genuinely, like, walks around, like, touting that. Usually that's not the case. Usually what people want to do in their heart of hearts is to show honor, but I think the execution is usually done poorly. And now, you might be here this morning and you're single or divorced, or you're one of our high school and middle school students. You're like, what am I going to do with this? One, over the next 3 weeks, we're going to pour into your parents, okay? Like, if you're young in here this morning and you're like, I don't know what to do with this. All I'm trying to do is get through gym class, bro. Like, I'm not ready to get married. I don't blame you. Take your time, all right? Just take a long time. Okay? But we're going to pour into your parents, and we're going to make sure that because I'll tell you what, when your parents are doing well and they're happy and they're thriving and they're learning what it means to honor, it'll be a lot less stressful for you, okay? I promise. And these will be nuggets. You could write these down one day, tuck them away, go, I'm never going to use this. And then you're going to get to your 20s and 30s, and hopefully if you're, filed things away, and you'll probably be like, that was gold. And you can call me, and I will say you're welcome. All right? But if you're single this morning, or if you're dating, like, please, 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 I want you to hear this stuff, and I want to drive this home, that no matter where you're at in family right now, dating or marriage or single, divorce, whatever the case may be, I want to let you know that there is hope. That there is hope for your relationships. There is hope for something greater. And maybe nobody's ever told you that before, but and we look at marriage in this really bad light, unfortunately, But there is a truth in being able to honor people well. But it's difficult to be able to do. And just kind of paint a picture, like on Wednesdays, we don't walk into our home at the end of the day and be like, I can't wait to honor my wife. Like that doesn't happen. What happens? I wake up in the morning and we, get the kids to school, pack everything up, get them ready, go to work, do my thing, meet with people, do whatever, and then race home. And then either we pull in the driveway around the same time and either I picked up the kids or she's picked up the kids. And then it's like, we hit the stopwatch. And then it's like, all right, make dinner real quick, suck that down. All right, send one daughter to a dance class, do the other one. I got to get ready for the gel group tonight. Daddy, I want to play. No, I need to tell people about Jesus. And so, so you're going over the study, doing all that. Everybody shows up, ding dong. Hey, everything's fine. Hey, how's it going? Do that. 9:30 wraps up. Hey, see you guys later. Everybody goes out the door, and then get the kids to bed forcefully, and then get them, and then do all the things. And then I look at my wife, and the first thing that I think of is, I can't wait to honor you. No, I'm like, I love you. I'm going to bed. All right. And so your household, and you may, we laugh. That's how a lot of us are at home. Like things get crazy, and the first thing in our mind isn't, how do I honor you? No, we're like, we come home like, that recliner sounds amazing right now. Yeah, I know you want to play. Go find a doll. And you sit down and you go, man, I just need some decompression time, which turns into, it's time to go to bed. And then we start it all over again. And so what does it look like to honor each other well? Not even just in our marriages, but in our relationships that we have with people. How do we just elevate and show honor? Well, I think we have to see it played out. And if you're taking notes today, if you're writing stuff down, this is your tweetable, your Facebook update, whatever, I want you to take this home and really this is to drive home the point today, is that honor modeled leads to honor knowledge. When you see it happen, you get the knowledge of that's what it looks like. Take that honor knowledge and school somebody. All right? And if you're not familiar with that terminology, when somebody gets schooled, they get taught something. All right? You're going to be like, I'm going to take you to school. Have you ever played basketball and stuff? When we were kids, we get on the basketball court, I'm about to take you to school. I wasn't good. I was that kid because I'm Caucasian and I just couldn't play. So I'm like, I'll get you guys some water. Good. But you get to a place where you're like, I'm going to school you. I'm going to get. And so when you watch it modeled, when you see it played out, when you see it play, you go, I know what that looks like now. And now that I know what it looks like, and now that I understand what the experience is, I want to be able to show that to somebody else. And it starts right within the very walls of our homes. Before it ever goes out anywhere else, before it happens here, before it happens at work, before it happens with your neighbor, it has to start at home. And so what does honor look like for you and I? Day to day, in our families, in our homes. Well, we have to kind of go back a little bit and look at some characters that I believe in the Old Testament. It is a beautiful portrayal of what honor looks like. And so we catch up with these two characters in the story, these two people. And before we kind of get to the passage there in Ruth chapter 3, there's two main characters that we get to know a little bit. The first one is Ruth. Now, Ruth is she married into a family. It was her and another girl, Orpah, that married into this family. And so they married these two brothers, and then there was mom and dad, and then the two families underneath there. And so they get married, they do their thing, and then the dad ends up dying. And so now you're left with the two sons and their wives, and then the mom who is widowed. Well, not too long after that, tragically, both of the husbands die. And so now they're left, these two daughters-in-law with their mother-in-law, and one of the daughters-in-law said, I'm going to go, and I'm going to go back home with my family and do my thing, and the mother-in-law totally understands that. And then the other daughter says, no, I'm going to stay with you, and I want to help with you. And we're actually going to look at that story and unpack that portion much more in our third week, where we talk about what is it like to deal with, and I say deal with, in love and all those things, extended family. and in-laws, and what does that look like for you and I? Because I hear that all the time from people. They're like, I love my family, I just don't like anyone else. And I'm like, how do we love people well? And so there's a great story and thing that kind of unfolds there. And so we kind of catch up with Ruth as Ruth and Naomi, her mother-in-law, travel back to the land that Naomi had known. And then we're introduced to this character, Boaz. Now, Boaz, we don't really know a ton about him other than he's a landowner. He's doing pretty well for himself. He's not, extravagantly wealthy, but he's a normal, average, everyday guy who's doing okay for himself. And he has this land, and actually he has ties to the family line of the brothers that had since passed away. And so they travel back, and we're not even told, whether he's a strapping man or anything like that, like he's just like good looking, but we are actually made note of that he's a little older. And he's doing his thing, landowner, doing well, and they travel back, Naomi and Ruth, to the town that Naomi's from, basically because they hear that it is plentiful there, that there's food, that they can, find relief and solace there. And each of the landowners, during a time where people were hurting, is they would actually take corners of their lots, corners of their plantation there and their farm, and they would section off a corner that people could come that were not as well off, and they could get food from there. And so come to find out is that Naomi sends Ruth off to go get food from this particular field of Boaz's. And she goes there, and there must be some kind of connection. We're actually not even told what Ruth looks like. We're not told, like, she's fine or anything like that. But we do know that there's a connection made between her and Boaz. And so she comes onto the scene, and like anything would happen in a work environment during that time is when she came into the field, like all the men are like, what up, girl? And all this stuff, and like kind of like catcalling her and like being actually fairly rude to her. And the norm would be that would be the case, but Boaz kind of steps in. Says that's not going to happen, that's not okay, we're not going to allow that to take place. And after she's left and watched how she composed herself, she didn't snap back and do anything, she just composed herself well and went on. He tells his worker, he said, listen, I want you to actually get more than what we would normally have in that corner of the field and make sure that there's extra that she can be able to take with her, because there's something about this woman that I'm intrigued with. He's like, give that girl a little extra because she, and so he does it. And so she keeps coming back, and he watches this take place and the way that she's just composing herself. And now you would think that at some point Boaz is going to be like, kind of walk up, see that she's coming into the field, be like, leaning back, what up, girl? Like those Ryan Gosling memes, like, hey, girl, and do his thing. But no, he just waits. And that's the thing. Like, the burden isn't on him to make the first move. Sorry, ladies, but what was going on during that time is that because she had lost her spouse, she would look for what was known as a kinsman redeemer, someone who would carry on the family name. And so they would find someone somewhere within the family lineage that was not married, and they would go to them and kind of not like say like we're going to get married, but they would kind of go and be like, I want to let you know that I know that this could work. And so she has to kind of put feelers out there, so to speak. And so we catch up with them here. You've been holding over in Ruth chapter 3, verses 7 through 11. In following. So why don't you read along with me? If you don't have a Bible, you can follow along on the screen here. It says, when Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. We're going to pause there. This is basically the reason that he would go here. It's not like he doesn't like his house and where he was residing. People, when they would do and kind of get the harvest, they would do it in phases. And so as they gathered everything together, they had to wait overnight before they could do the next phase. They didn't want anyone stealing it. So he's gone out there, and people would have known this would have been the case. They'd watch this field and all the work that was done, know that it was taking place, and they put it there. He's like, I'm going to sleep here because I don't want anybody to rob me. And so he laid down by the end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. All right, now this may sound creepy. okay? Like you're just laying there. It's like if you were laying in the middle of the night, like you just like tonight, you get done watching The Walking Dead and you lay down in your bed, you start having nightmares about zombies and you wake up and there's like somebody there at the foot of your bed, all right? Like you would call the police. You might not call them right away because you might beat that person. All right? Like it would be a little weird and a little out of control. This is not the case there. Like there's no funny business happening. This is, and to follow along, because we're going to kind of get into this would have been culturally okay. All right? And so we're going to keep following along. Verse 8. It says, in the middle of the night, something startled the man, maybe like somebody laying by his feet. And he turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. So verse 9 says, who are you? He asked. I am Ruth, your servant. Or I'm your servant Ruth, she said. Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are the guardian or the kinsman redeemer of your family, of our family. Now we're going to pause there. Now this isn't like you start saying like, what's going on? This is scandalous in the barn. Like before you go there, okay? There's nothing bad happening here. This would have been, he was completely robed. Everything's fine. She's actually, because they're just the only two in the barn, all right? She could have easily gone in there and something more could have happened. She goes quietly near his feet. And this whole interaction is about her being able to not only honor him, but to share with him that she's a woman of honor, that she wants to let him know that something more can happen from here in their relationship. And so she actually stays near down by his feet. And so it would have been typical for him to kind of, this gesture to say, I accept you letting me know that there could be something here. And so this would have been something, this isn't like he's, disrobed or anything like that. So just don't let your mind wander. Verse 10, the Lord bless you, my daughter. I love his response to her. This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier, which she had been very kind and generous and honoring to these workers that were in the field, even though that they weren't honoring to her. So he's watched her, that basically saying, you're a woman of great character. You have not run after the younger man. You didn't go after them younger mans. That you didn't, and so basically we're getting here that like he's a little older, all right? This isn't like he's no spring chicken, all right? He realized, he's basically saying this moment like, I'm not exactly like the catch, and yet you're coming here, and so he's saying like, man, there's something about you that is more honorable than just simply chasing after someone who's young with lots of money and all these things. It says, whether rich or poor, verse 11, and now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All the people of my town, all the people around will know that you are a woman of what? Noble character. We watch this really amazing portrayal of honor going back and forth between these two. Something that doesn't often happen in society today. And people kind of think down about marriage and what was happening. They're like, oh, well, how many of you have heard it said that 50%, or maybe you even quoted that 50% of marriages end in divorce? Show of hands. Yeah, like a lot of us. Do you know that's absolutely not true? It's not true at all. It was quoted by a gentleman in the UK in an interview in the United States, and then that continued to flow through everything that happened. And there was a private study done by Shanti Feldman and her husband. They had both received their research training at the University of Harvard. And they walked through, and in their year-long of research, looking at every single statistic and every bit of facts, they came to realize that there was not a single thing that proved the 50% or more divorce rate. Didn't happen. In fact, at the end of the research, they found, and this is good news, if you're sitting there going like, man, you're single and you're like, I don't know if I even want to get married because look at that. And you're like, this is amazing to me, and I wish it was lower, but it's still much lower. It says they found that only 20 to 25% of first-time marriages end in divorce. But they continued on. They dug deeper and dispelled myths about marriage within the church. Because usually what's touted is, if you get married in the church, you get married out of church, really doesn't matter because everybody screwed up. Listen to this. When individuals, everybody is screwed up, but We have the hope, and that's good. When individuals met within the local church, person, I love God. Hey, I love God. Let's get together and love God together in something. And the divorce rate dropped again to 10 to 15%. 10 to 15%. And so if you're sitting here today going, man, like what's the hope? This is amazing news. This is beautiful for you and I as we go like, man, what does it look like to be in a committed relationship, to go, I want to honor you, I want to honor you. Let's do that together, and let's do that with God at the center. The chances are overwhelmingly possible that you're going to stick it out for the long haul. And if you're finding yourself on rocky ground, I loved what they said about this. Couples who chose to stick it out within the church, 80+% of those 5 years later were not only thriving, but were pouring into other couples. And so if you look at marriage and you're just like, I don't know, like it's kind of dicey, I've watched people, whatever, there is definitive proof that the beauty and bond of marriage is something that lasts time. That when we solidify ourselves with God and follow Him and do as He has desired for us, that we watch a beautiful thing transpire and God goes, you know what, that is so good. I'm so glad that you're honoring me by that. And so how do we do that? What are the nuts and bolts of doing that in your marriage day to day? I have two things. And the Bible doesn't talk a lot about the ins and outs of marriage. It's not a ton. There's not a lot. Jesus talks way more. The number one things He talks about during His ministry, oddly enough, is money. And so when you're going like, I want to look, there's instances of marriages that we look at in the Bible, we go, what can we learn from them? How can we learn from them and dive in? Because if they're getting it, I want to get it too, because let's face it, sometimes we don't get it. And actually, fellas, a lot of time we don't get it, all right? And so if you're taking notes, two things about how to show honor and model that well. The first one is this, is you need to honor with your speech. You need to honor with your speech. How you talk, and I would take that a step further. Your words matter, so choose less, be loving, and speak with purpose. Choose less, be loving, and speak with purpose. There's a study that was done on couples who had been married for a decade or longer, and they began tracking back and looking at them, whether they were thriving, whether they were failing, and they tracked back to the very beginning. And they looked and saw something very fascinating about couples that were lasting. They saw that couples that were lasting, among couples who would ultimately stay together, 5 out of every 100 comments made about each other were put downs. 5 out of 100 were put downs, which meant another 95 were like, I love you, boo. I love you too, boo. Like exciting, like you look good today, all this other stuff. Like only 5 out of 100. Now here's the thing. Of couples that they saw who would later split, 10 out of every 100 comments were insults. 5, they lasted. 10, starting out with 10 out of 100, they didn't. You want to know why? Is they watched the study, they watched this. Oh, we're together, we love each other, I love you, oh, we're in the honeymoon phase. And then it exponentially increased every year, until they, in the couples that weren't lasting, they actually watched as they were not able to say one positive thing about their spouse. You want to think that words matter? Words are huge. I know it as I watch it in my own life. I watch with, and I didn't notice it till I had daughters, and I would talk to them. I would say the exact same thing I heard my wife say the day before, and when she said it, it worked. And then I would say it, and my daughters would almost cower. Like same, I felt like it was the same tone. I felt like I was doing it. I was like, I'm doing good. But I noticed like my voice is deeper than hers. And so I would say the same thing. She would say it. She'd get all kinds of things done with our kids. I would say it, and they'd be like, I don't want to, and start crying. I'm like, what is going on? And it's like, and my wife pointed out to me, she's like, your voice, like, you come across, you don't even know it, but your voice is just deeper. And so they, like, you, when I'm like, eat your food. And Carrie says it, she's like, eat your food. And there's like, I'm totally sleeping on the couch for that one. That is not one of the 5, by the way. And she does it. I can't talk like a girl. And so she does it, but they'll do it. And my kids and it was a total difference. So she's like, when you say it, it just kind of scares them. I'm like, I'm not that scary. She's like, I know you're not scary. You just have to be able to communicate so they can hear you. And so I started doing it differently. But then I was like, they're girls. My wife's a girl. I wonder if some of the communication issues have to do with the fact that I need to change the way that I talk. So sure enough, started talking in a softer tone, and I was like, whoa, our communication's better. I was like, man, I'm such a dummy. Like, why didn't I learn this? It took me till we had kids to do it. But I tell you, like, guys, like the way that you talk in your relationship, in the words that you choose, because we don't talk as much, all right? It's scientifically proven. We use this many words, they use this many words, all right? So your words matter, and the way you say it matters, and so choose your words carefully. Ladies, I want to talk to you for a second, all right? Kind of get on the guys. I'm going to get on you ladies a minute, so just put on your big girl pants. So, I didn't mean, here's the thing. Every week I go out and I'll study my message like in a Starbucks or a Panera, and this is what I see. All I see is, and it's unfortunate, I wish it wasn't the norm, but it is I'll see a group of ladies get together and they'll get their food and they will trash their spouses. Stop it. You want your husband to rise up to be the man that you want him to be, that you're complaining about to your friends. Maybe you need to honor him the way that you want him to be so that he can rise to the occasion. Stop bad-mouthing him around people. Don't bad-mouth him on Facebook anymore. Guys, I tell you the same thing. Like we get on social networking and we rant and we rave. Man, step away from your phone. Like 10 years ago, nobody would know you were having an issue. Now all of a sudden you're like, I can't wait to stop. Don't be dumb, all right? Like think about what you're saying and the way that you're honoring one another and caring for one another. Man, our words carry so much weight. We have to be able to choose them wisely. Here's the second thing as we kind of wrap up here. The second thing that we need to be able to do and show honor, I believe it is so true, is we need to be able to honor with our actions, all right? Because talk is easy, all right? We can kind of say something, but there's another thing when it comes to action. Actions take dedication. I want you to be a rock, all right? Be immovable in what it means to show honor in your actions. When I went, we were moving some bricks out here and some stuff, and we were clearing out the pump house to be able to put our new sign that's going up soon. And one of the guys dug out this thing, and I went to go move it. And I'm great with my feet. Like I can skateboard, I can surf, I can play soccer. I have no upper body strength. And so I go to lift this thing. I'm like, I'm weak. I can't lift it. Like, and I'm trying. This rock was so big. One of the other guys, who's like, I break stuff, I pick stuff up, I put things down. He goes over there, he picks it up, and I'm like, with ease, he's like, yeah, and does it like the rock was standing firm. Nothing was going to move it. You need to be a rock like that when it comes to your actions. You are immovable when it comes to standing firm on moving in your action towards other people, that nobody can move you from the path that you are on. You're like, I'm going to show honor through my actions. I'm going to show honor. There's this couple at the church that I was working at a while back, and they were kind of being interviewed on stage. They've been together for like 15, 16 years, and they realized around that time that they started having trouble. They were like kind of just like having issues, and so they said, we're going to get like a fail, like we need to work on this, whatever, boxes, and we're going to get 2 of them. And I was like, this sounds like an awful idea, because if we did that around my house, my box would be full and hers would be empty. And so they get this box and they're like everything. And so the wife is just like, man, you don't put your laundry away. ever. You didn't fix that thing that you said you would fix. You said something that hurt my feeling. And all. So every day she's putting stuff in there, and every day she sees him putting stuff in there. So she's like, well, you got something, I'm going to get something too. And so it was almost like a competition, like who can write the most stuff? And so they put it in this box, and then at the end of the month, they would open up the boxes. And sure enough, the very first month, and they only did it for a month, I could have told you that. And so they get to the end of the month and they open up the boxes, and he goes first. And he opens up the box and he starts reading them out loud, because that's what they were supposed to do. That was part of the exercise that somebody told him to do. And they like, oh, yeah, I didn't do that. Oh, yeah, you're right, I didn't do that. Yeah, I failed like that too. And like he's owned it, which I'm like, all right, man, good for you. And then they talk, and then so his wife opens up her box and she starts pulling out the papers. I love you. I love you. Every day, I love you. And they began talking and conversing about what that meant for them. And he's like, there's a lot of things that I could have been nitpicky about, but all I want to do is every day wake up and honor her. So I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to fail at some things, but I'm going to show honor in my actions. And I might not get it all right. I might get a lot of it wrong, but I'm going to make sure that I honor and honor well. The last time I went back to Vietnam, I was prepared, all right? I was like, no more crazy chicken for me. I'm like, I'm going to get this. And so I've been practicing. We get there, and sure enough, done. He's like, oh, good with chopsticks. And I'm like, I'm going to show you, little Asian friend. And, because we have this fun banter back and forth, and we sit at the meal, and I'm eating. He's like, you're really good with those. I'm like, man, I've been practicing. I don't want to hit people with chicken anymore. And we eat, and we're kind of hanging out during the week, and he stops me. We're doing a teacher conference there in the village, and Dunn comes over, and he stops and says, hey, Jason, I just want to tell you. He's like, he starts off, your Vietnamese not so good. And I'm like, I know, I'm awful at it. I'm really trying. He's like, but it means a lot that you would like learn these cultural things. So I was like, what? He's like, you're eating. He's like, you don't realize like how big of a deal it is, but like I can see that you're trying, and it he said it makes his heart happy. And like two dudes standing in the middle of a village in Vietnam, like I lose them. and I just looked like a teenage girl there just sobbing. And he's like, why are you crying? I was like, man, you're just amazing. He's like, well, aren't we supposed to do that? Like, as we're friends and do this life together, we're supposed to honor each other, right? He's like, I come to your country, I honor you. You come to my country, you honor me. We're doing this together. In the walls of your home, where it may feel like a battleground at times, and it may feel like everybody needs to put on a flak jacket and a helmet and then step in. Maybe for the first time, as we strive to honor, we say, you know what? I'm beginning to see it modeled in this man named Jesus. I'm going to take that knowledge, that honor knowledge, and I'm going to pour that in right where I'm at. And I'm going to watch it unfold. That's my prayer for you and I. I believe if we can do that for a week, 2 weeks, and a month, that before too long, our neighborhoods and our homes in this entire city and surrounding cities will be changed with the love of Jesus. And we can learn to honor and honor well. Why don't you pray with me?